Welcome to the War Master Podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about something that can go wrong when you're painting miniatures, but it hasn't happened to me for a long time because I haven't painted miniatures for a long time. So what happened recently was I sprayed my miniatures with a couple of coats of Army Painter Matt Varnish. You can hear the rattle can here. And I did it on a day where it turned out it was about 75 degrees centigrade with 62% humidity, according to the my weather app. And what that led to was something called hazing, or there's actually a more technical term for it, but it kind of, what happens, it makes the clear varnish become misty. So we'll look at a few miniatures here and we'll see if we can pick out what actually happened. So it looks like, can you see they're kind of, I mean, they're not the world's best painted miniatures, I'm not going to claim they are, but you can see that it's no longer clear and it's got like a grey fogging effect over it, so you can't, and everything looks dull, which you'd expect matte varnish to look a little bit dull, but these guys, you can see there's like a thick residue here around the plume. So I'll show you some of the other ones, and then what I'm going to attempt to do is I posted online for solutions to try and remedy what's happened here, and people talked about spraying again with a different matte varnish, or using a gloss varnish, using olive oil, or baking in the oven. And that's I'm going to try all those things, and I'm going to post up the results and see what actually does clear this misting, or was it called breezing or something, the actual term for it? You'd think I'd have looked it up, wouldn't you? I see, but again, not all of them. It didn't happen to all of them. These look relatively unscathed. Whereas, is it this one here? Yeah, you can see. Look at the state of this guy's nose. And I was very gentle. I was quite distant, and I didn't spray heavily. But anyway, so this is the intro. What we're going to do is we're going to take these fellas. I'm going to expose them to various different treatments. If I find a treatment that works, I'll probably just stop there and use that, rather, because the aim of the game is for me to actually repair these miniatures. And people say about, oh, use brush on varnish, or don't use varnish at all. But the spray cans are convenient. That's why they sell. That's why people buy them. That's why people undercoat with spray cans, and that's why people varnish with spray cans. So hopefully, if this ever happens to you, and when it happens to you, it will annoy the living bejesus out of you, hopefully we can sort out what to do about it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of miniatures. I don't know whether you can see them there. There they are. In an old enamel pot, and we're going to put them in my oven at 180 degrees. I use this oven to warm up my moulds when I'm casting in winter, because it can take quite a while for cold moulds to get running properly. So I stick them in here to warm up, only about 100 degrees centigrade when I warm up the moulds, or 110, 120, depending on how cold they are. And today I'm going to put this on 180. So the reason 180 is that was A, recommended, but B, I know that the melting point of like most pewter is about 250 centigrade, so it's quite a long way off. Hopefully it doesn't damage the paint, it won't damage the metals, and we'll see what happens. Well, it's been about 15 minutes, so let's see what's gone on in here. Oh dear, that's not a good sign. Obviously I put them on this tray, which is obviously sitting on that element, and that is a lot hotter than 180 degrees, because that shouldn't happen at 180 degrees. Oh well, I might try it again in a different oven, but for now that's a fail, so don't overheat them. Okay, so next up we're going to take these two fellas and we're going to hit them with another coat of the old Army Painter Matt Varnish and see if that corrects the issue. We'll do it indoors. It's not too hot, it's not too humid today. We'll just open the windows and do it in the garage and see what happens. So this is after one coat of the Army Painter spray again today, and I have to admit, it's looking like it's pretty much solved. I may do a second coat, so
that's going to be as many as 4 coats overall, but I don't think you can over varnish figures. But I'm just using my phone to video all these, so it's not quite as effective as the other things. But I think that's turned out pretty well. So this may be the end of the experiment here. I don't know if this works. I don't know if I'm going to go any further, and I will just recommend you just hit them again with varnish.
So we had mixed success. We lost a couple of models in the Mountain of Doom in Mordor, which turns out to be my little portable oven, which melted a couple of fellas, unfortunately. And then we tried the Army Painter spray again, and that appeared to work relatively well. So these are the figures that came out, the first ones you saw. I did manage to drop this horse on his nose when I was getting him off the base, and even with the protection of several layers of varnish, we damaged his nose and his ear, so they'll need patching up. But how did it work? Well, using my 80-20 rule, I would probably say that that is now passable. I'll try. There is in here, you can still see in his coat, you can still see some misting in the creases, which I may try and have a go at again with some paint on varnish. But all in all, 80-20, I think I can probably get away with those. Not all of them were so lucky though. Let's see some more infantry. See these ones here, I think they're fine. I don't think we're going to have any problems with those. Some of the cavalry. There's some problems with the noses of the cavalry. I think they look okay now. Some more cavalry. Maybe this guy's nose is still a bit blobby here, maybe. This guy here. Oh, it's quite hard to focus. I think this guy here still looks a little bit grey on the nose. But not everything worked. A couple of fellas are going to still need stripping. Maybe not that one. Maybe he could pass, the officer here. But this guy here, he was probably the worst culprit. I managed to even have to spray him again. It's not cleaned up his face or his helmet or the drum. So this guy's going to have to be stripped, I think. But if we ignore the 2 fallen comrades, that only means I have to strip 1 out of the ones I've painted, which isn't that bad. I can cope with that. And then I have to replace his drummer mate and one of the horses that are now liquid goo. So I would suggest, if you want to repair it and you're happy with getting it to, let's have a look, getting it to kind of this standard here, which isn't perfect, but it's passable. So if you're happy with this standard here, and I'll try and bring this guy in with him so you can try see them together and see. It's quite hard to get them together, those fellas there maybe. So I don't think there's a great deal in it now. Let's see if we can get the drummers somewhere near each other. No, probably not. There maybe. I think it's probably near enough really to not worry overly. So hit them again with the spray maybe a couple of times in better weather conditions, and I think that will 90% of the time and for 90% of the miniature solve the problem. Okay, thanks for watching.